We all kind of take modern medicine for granted, right? But the story of how humans have battled blindness, well, it is a truly dark and thrilling saga. Let's jump right in. Today in this explainer, we're going to uncover the terrifying history of cataract surgery. And trust me, it's a procedure that has literally pushed the limits of human endurance for thousands of years.
Now, I want you to start by asking yourself a deeply unsettling question. What if you went blind in 800 BC? I mean, really put yourself there and imagine the sheer terror of that. You're facing a slow, terrifying decline into total darkness. There are no sterile operating rooms, no anesthetics, no modern diagnostic tools. Just you, your fading vision, and a world that was incredibly dangerous for anyone who couldn't fend for themselves. Losing your sight centuries ago wasn't just a medical issue. It was, for sure, a devastating life sentence.
But ancient healers weren't just throwing their hands up and giving up. In ancient Indian medicine, which we know as Ayurveda, they actually had a very specific diagnosis for this terrifying affliction. They called it kaphaja linganasha. And they used this poetic, yet totally chilling, sensory language to describe it. A mature cataract was viewed as a thick, white cloud that slowly swallowed a patient's pupil. They said it looked exactly like a white drop of water moving on a lotus leaf. Basically, it was a complete obstruction of vision, where the patient could only perceive bright light.
And this is where the awe-inspiring hero of our story steps in, Sushruta. He was an ancient Indian surgeon who lived around 800 BC, and he absolutely refused to let his patients live in darkness. So he designed a terrifyingly simple tool for restoring light, called the Jabamukhi Salaka. Basically, it's a custom-made copper or iron needle with a tip shaped like a grain of barley. Yes, you're hearing that right, an instrument specifically designed to pierce the human eye while the patient is wide awake, with zero modern painkillers.
So how did they actually do it? Well, the preparation was meticulous, almost ritualistic. You couldn't just walk in and get this done on a whim. First, the patient underwent medicated purgation and sweating, just to balance their bodily humors. Then they had to wait for the perfect day, specifically mild, cloudless weather. On the day of the surgery, the patient was seated and physically restrained by brave, strong attendants, with their legs extended. And finally, they just had to wait for the morning sun, because obviously, the surgeon needed the absolute brightest natural light to see what he was doing.
When the moment was absolutely right, the actual procedure, which is a technique known as couching, finally began. Step 1. The patient is instructed to look steadily at their own nose to position the eye perfectly. Step 2. The surgeon firmly holds that barley-tipped needle and pierces the eyeball at a very specific point called the Divakrita Chidra, or the natural keyhole, right off to the side of the iris. Step 3. The needle is manipulated inside the eye to actually scrape and push the opaque, cloudy lens. And step 4, well, this is truly bizarre. The patient has one nostril closed and is told to forcefully sneeze. This Valsalva maneuver increases the pressure and actually helps expel the liquefied cataract matter right out of the eye.
Just imagine the deep, agonizing emotion of this moment. The ancient texts explicitly describe the sound of the needle breaking the surface of the eye, followed instantly by a drop of aqueous liquid spilling out onto the cheek. The sheer agony and panic that patient endured, being held down by attendants with a literal needle digging into their eye, it's almost unimaginable for us today.
But here's the incredible part of all this. The goal was crude, sure, but it was absolutely ingenious. The surgeon used the needle to physically shove the hardened, cloudy cataract down and back into the vitreous chamber of the eye. They literally shoved the obstruction out of the visual axis. And in that terrifying moment of absolute agony, a miracle happened. Light flooded back into the patient's world. They could suddenly see moving objects and the faces of the people holding them down.
So the really crucial question is, what happens after you pull a metal needle out of an unanesthetized eye? Well, the postoperative care was fascinating. The open wound was immediately irrigated with woman's breast milk, which actually we now know has natural antibacterial properties. Then warm clarified butter, or ghee, was applied to soothe the eye before it was carefully bandaged with leaves. After that, the patient was ordered to maintain absolute stillness. For days, they were strictly forbidden from coughing, sneezing, spitting, or even shivering, just to prevent that lens from floating right back up.
Now, Sushruta's invention was a monumental leap for humanity. The idea spread like wildfire from India to China, the Middle East, and eventually into Europe. But I want to pause right here and ask you something. Did this miraculous ancient cure hide a dark, dangerous secret?
Because as this procedure traveled across the globe over the centuries, it left the hands of master surgeons and entered a much, much darker phase.
By the 16th century in Europe, the situation had devolved into an absolute nightmare. In 1583, the ophthalmologist George Bertish lamented that this noble cure had been completely hijacked by untrained vagabonds and quacks. He lists tooth pullers, rat catchers, hangmen, and ruined shopkeepers taking rusty needles and aggressively stabbing people in the eyes in town squares just for a quick coin. There was zero quality control, zero sterility, and as you might guess, the complication rates were catastrophic.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this, you have to realize that for over 2.5 millennia, from Sushruta in 800 BC, all the way through the Roman Empire and past those horrific quacks of the 1500s, couching was literally the only way to treat a cataract. It wasn't until 1747 that a French surgeon named Jacques de Viel pioneered extracapsular extraction. That meant actually cutting the eye open to pull the lens entirely out, rather than just shoving it down. This massive breakthrough supposedly ended the dark ages of eye surgery forever.
But here is the tragic, frankly unbelievable twist in our explainer today. The nightmare isn't over. You'd think that with modern lasers and painless 15-minute cataract surgeries available to us today, the brutal, unanesthetized needle stabbing of couching would just be a relic of ancient history. But sadly, it's not.
It is with heavy hearts and grave empathy that we have to acknowledge that even today, right now, in remote parts of sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, local, completely untrained traditional healers are still performing this exact same dangerous surgery on desperate people.
You really have to ask, why would anyone risk it today?
And it breaks your heart when you look at the reality. We're talking about populations living in extreme poverty in rural locations completely cut off from modern medical facilities. There's a severe lack of education about what a cataract actually is, combined with an entrenched, deeply held belief in traditional healers and acts of fate. For someone who is completely blind and just desperate to feed their family, a traveling healer with a needle seems like their only beacon of hope.
But the outcome is an absolute tragedy. Because these modern-day healers completely lack the meticulous, ritualistic care of someone like Sushruta, the complications are horrifying. Patients suffer from severe eye pain, massive inflammation known as uveitis, corneal scarring, and their retinas detach. The eyes frequently fill with severe infections, a condition called endophthalmitis. And studies show that over 60% of these modern couching patients end up completely, irreversibly blind anyway.
It's a cruel emotional trick, really, because that cloudy lens is pushed out of the way. The patient actually gets a few days of blurry, miraculous vision. They celebrate, they scrape together what they have to pay the healer, and the healer leaves town. And then, a few days later, the massive infections set in, the pain becomes unbearable, and they are plunged right back into permanent, incurable darkness. It's a fleeting moment of light, stolen away forever.
We tend to view medical history as a straight line of progress from darkness into light. But if a gruesome 2,800-year-old eye-stabbing procedure is still blinding people today, well, it forces us to confront a pretty chilling reality.
You have to ask yourself, how many other ancient, dangerous cures are still hiding in the shadows of modern medicine right now, preying on the desperate? Medical history is rarely as neat and clean as we'd like to believe. If you want to keep uncovering the shocking, visceral truths of our past and present, make sure you hit subscribe and follow for more facts. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.